Good morning to all of you, and I welcome all of you. This is again Narayan Sharma, HD, Assistant Professor of Physics, Government First Grade College, Vartur. Here I am continuing my discussion on quantum mechanics, part 2 of BSc Physics, paper 8 for the 6th semester. So the topic that I am covering in this session, third session, is Schrodinger's time independent equation. In my last session, I discussed about the Schrodinger's time dependent equation. So in today's session, in this particular session, so I should try to give a glimpse of setting up Schrodinger's time independent equation. Anyhow, before proceeding further, let me straightly say the objectives of this particular session. The main objective of this particular session is definitely to set up a Schrodinger's time independent equation. So we start from Schrodinger's time dependent equation, and from time dependent equation we are going to extract time independent form. So the time independent form of that equation is what we call it as a Schrodinger's time independent equation. This is what our first objective. The second objective is to understand Max Born's interpretation of the wave function. So the proper physical significance of the wave function was actually given by a person called Max Born. So therefore, we have a Max Born's interpretation of the wave function. What is that interpretation? We'll try to understand. And also, so I shall try to explain the concept of normalization. So what is the meaning of normalization of a wave function? The meaning of normalized wave function, and then also how to achieve that process of normalization, that is the procedure of normalization. So these are the 4 important objectives of this particular session: to set up Schrodinger's time independent equation, to understand Max Born's interpretation of the wave function, so to understand the concept of normalization, and so to know the procedure of normalization. We have already discussed about the Schrodinger's equation time dependent form. Now from the time dependent form, we should try to extract time independent form. So this actually happens in many of the cases where for the given physical system, the potential energy of the physical system or the particle, whatever it is, so does not depend on time explicitly. While discussing the time dependent equation, we assumed that the potential energy function depends both on space coordinates as well as time coordinates. But the thing is, in majority of the situation, the potential energy is not a function of time. It depends on only the position coordinates x, y, z. So therefore, in such a case, the Schrodinger's equations can be simplified to one particular form, and that the simplified form is what is nothing but so the time independent form. So if the potential energy function of a given particle or a given physical system is independent of time coordinate, then the wave function for that particular unrestricted particle, please remember, if the potential energy of the particle is independent of time, so for an unrestricted particle, then in the respective case, the wave function psi can be in general written as a into exponential minus I by h cross into et minus px. This is what the general form of the wave function we discussed in the previous session. Now, this wave function can be split up into 2 parts. So a into e power I by h cross px into exponential minus I by h cross into et. This is a very simple mathematical simplification. Now, this function a into e power I by h cross px, where e power I by h cross p into x is a function of x coordinate only, because we are discussing the one-dimensional case, they can be put together and they can be called it as one single function. That single function I have written it as phi. So therefore, phi is a function of only the x coordinate, as we are discussing one-dimensional case. So phi is not a function of time coordinate. It is because the time coordinate part we have split it out. So when we have written it as separately, e into minus I h cross into et. So therefore the wave function psi can be written as phi into exponential minus I by h cross into et, where phi is a pure function of space coordinates, here x coordinate, because it's a one-dimensional case. So therefore, phi is equal to a into exponential I by h cross into px. I have already told. So therefore, the wave function psi is a product of time dependent term e power minus I by h cross into et and the position dependent function phi. So therefore, in the case of a physical system consisting of a particle whose potential energy is independent of time, then the wave function can be written as so product of phi and exponential minus I by h cross into et, where phi is what we call it as position dependent function because it depends on only on the position coordinate x, because here we are discussing the case of one dimension. So therefore, we are going to substitute this equation 13 in the time independent form. I am not sure the time independent forms or time dependent form here. The time independent and dependent form can be taken from the previous session. I have not done all those things as simplification. But anyhow, directly when we substitute this equation 13 into so the time dependent form of the Schrodinger equation, and if we simplify and if we substitute, we are going to end up with expression e into 5 exponential minus I by h cross into et is equal to minus h cross square divided by 2m exponential minus I by h cross into et times dou square phi divided by dou x square plus v of 5 exponential minus I by h cross into et. So this exponential term, exponential minus I by h cross into et, so can be cancelled on both the sides. And after cancelling that particular term, and if we simplify, then we are going to get the equation dou square phi divided by dou x square plus 2m by h cross square e minus v times phi is equal to 0. This is equation 15, and this equation 15 is nothing but the time independent form of Schrodinger's equation. So it is also called steady state form. Time independent equation is also called it as a steady state form. And of course, this equation is valid only in one dimensions. So this is the equation we wanted to get, and therefore we have got this particular equation. So the equation dou square phi divided by dou x square plus 2m by h cross square e minus v times the phi is equal to 0 is Schrodinger's time independent equation for one dimension. Now generalizing this equation for 3 dimensions is very easy. We already know that so apart from dou square phi by dou x square, we are going to get two more terms, dou square phi by dou y square, dou square phi by dou z square. So therefore, if we generalize this equation for 3 dimensions, then we are going to get the equation dou square phi divided by dou x square plus dou square phi divided by dou y square plus dou square phi by dou z square plus 2m by h cross square e minus v times the phi is equal to 0, where phi is a function of x, y, z coordinates clearly because it is a case of the 3 dimension. So this particular equation is what we call it as a Schrodinger's equation or steady state form of Schrodinger's equation in 3 dimensions. This is the equation. And in terms of the Laplacian operator del square, we can also write del square phi plus 2m by h cross times e minus v times of phi is equal to 0. So therefore, the equation in 3 dimension in terms of Laplacian operator can also be written as del square phi plus 2m by h cross square e minus v times of phi is equal to 0. So equation 17. So therefore, equation 17 so shows Schrodinger's equation in 3 dimensions in terms of Laplacian operator del square. So I have put a note here. The note is that in my previous equation, equation 17 and the equation 17 and equation 15, I have used a symbol. Phi, but in general, so this phi symbol is not used for the spatial dependent form of the wave function. So it is written as a psi itself. So therefore, this equation 15 and 17. So they are written in terms of psi. So therefore, in terms of psi, so d square psi divided by dx square plus 2m by h cross square e minus v times psi is equal to 0. I have used the symbol d by dx. It is because in one-dimensional case, psi is a function of x coordinate only. So therefore, we don't use the differential symbol dou by dou x. We use the symbol d by dx. So therefore, for one dimension, d square psi divided by dx square plus 2m by h cross square times e minus v times psi is equal to 0. So this is equation 18, and equation 19 is nothing but the same equation, same as equation 17, that is replaced by psi. So therefore, del square psi plus 2m by h cross square times e minus v times psi is equal to 0, equation So these are precisely these two equations are the same old equations. Only thing is I have eliminated the symbol phi and I have used the same symbol psi. So therefore equation 18 and 19 they represent steady state form or time independent form of Schrodinger's equation in 1 dimension and 3 dimensions respectively. Now let us apply these two equation 18 and 19 for one particular case. The particular case is a free particle. So very often we consider free particle in the case of quantum mechanics. A free particle is the one in which there is no force acting on it. So therefore, if there is no potential, there is no force acting on the particle, then the potential experienced by the particle is zero, or the potential energy of the particle is zero. So therefore, in this equation 18 and 19, if I substitute v is equal to 0 in both the equation, then I am going to end up with Schrodinger's equation for a free particle. So therefore, I am going to get these two different equations: d square psi divided by dx square plus 2m by h cross square times E psi is equal to 0. That is time independent form of the Schrodinger equation in 1 dimension for a free particle. And similarly, if this equation 19, if you substitute v is equal to 0, so I'm not written it for 3 dimension. Anyhow, so the time dependent form of the Schrodinger's equation also I have written. And so I h cross dou psi by dou t minus h cross by 2m into dou square psi divided by dou h square. So this is what the time dependent form of the Schrodinger's equation in 1 dimension. The respective equation in the 3 dimensions can be written very easily, and I have not written here. So therefore, these two equations, d square psi by dx square plus 2m by h cross square E of psi is equal to 0, and I h cross dou psi by dou t is equal to minus h cross square by 2m dou square psi divided by dou x square. These two equations represent Schrodinger's equation of a free particle in 1 dimension for time independent case and for time dependent case respectively. So this is what one simple observation that what we have done here. Now let us proceed. Let us try to understand the Max Born's interpretation of the wave function. So Max Born's interpretation, there were many interpretations to explain the physical significance of the wave function associated with a given particle or associated with a given system. The best possible explanation was provided by a physicist called Max Born. And this Max Born's interpretation of the wave function is what we try to understand right now. He simply said that the square of the absolute value of the wave function of the particle, that is your modulus of psi square. Modulus of psi square is nothing but the square of the absolute value of the wave function, is a measure of probability density. According to Max Born, the absolute square of the absolute value of the wave function of a particle at a given particular time, at a given particular place, is a measure of the probability density. So the meaning of probability density means it is the probability of finding the particle at that particular time, at that particular place, per unit volume around the given point is what we call it as probability density. I want to repeat once again, probability density is nothing but probability of finding the particle at a given place per unit volume at a given time is what we call it as probability density. So this probability density can be measured by the square of the absolute value of the wave function of the particle according to Max Born. Now, according to the probability of finding a particle at a particular point must be real and positive. So therefore, probability density is given by, we discussed this one in the first session. Psi itself doesn't have a physical meaning because psi can have positive values, negative values, or complex values. So therefore, it cannot represent a physical quantity directly. And otherwise, so this modulus of psi square, which is a real number and a positive number. So therefore, this modulus of psi square, which is also nothing but the product of psi star into psi, where psi star is nothing but the complex conjugate of the wave function psi. So actually represents the probability density, and the probability density is actually given by the expression P of P, which is a function of x comma y comma z comma t. So we are interested in finding out the probability density of the particle at a particular place at a particular time. So therefore, the probability density must also be a function of the space coordinates of that particular point x, y, z, and also at a particular time. So therefore, it is also a function of the time coordinate t. So therefore, according to Max Born, the probability density p, which is a function of x comma y comma z and t, is actually given by the square of the absolute value of the wave function modulus of psi square, and it is also given by, so the product of the complex conjugate of the wave function psi star and the wave function psi itself, that is psi star plus psi. If this is the case, then the probability of finding the position of the particle within a volume dV. Sometimes we are not interested in the value of probability density, we are interested in the absolute value of probability. So if we want to find out the probability of finding the position of the particle within certain volume, let us say dV, then it is simply given by the product of P x y z t into dV, that is also equal to modulus of psi square into dV. So therefore we can conclude, according to Max Born, the probability of finding a particle within certain small volume dV is simply given by the product of, so the probability density times the value of the volume around which we are interested with. We are interested to find out the probability of the probability of finding the particle. This is what about Max Born's interpretation of the wave function. So as per Max Born's interpretation, so we can conclude that modulus of psi square gives the probability density, and if you are really interested to find out the probability, not the probability density, then the probability density must be multiplied with the volume within which we are interested to find out the probability of finding the particle around a given point. So let us continue. Let us move on to the next slide. Now we shall try to understand normalization of the wave function. There is one more important mathematical thing and of course physical thing associated with the wave function, and that procedure is what we call it as normalization. In most of the cases, for physical systems, we expect the wave function of the given physical system to be normalized. So this procedure of normalization, this concept of normalization actually comes from one particular property. That property is that we already know that this modulus of psi square is the probability density of finding the particle at a given point. So therefore, if we are going to differentiate this equation modulus of psi square over the entire available region, entire available space, then so therefore, if we go from minus infinity to minus plus infinity, and if we start considering a particle, we say the probability of finding the particle at a given point is so much. We say that the probability of finding the same particle at another point is something else or some other value. Anyhow, if we scan the entire space from minus infinity to plus infinity, we are going to find out the particle anyway. So therefore, within this region of minus infinity to plus infinity, the probability of finding the particle is always 1. So it's one or the other place, we are always going to find out the particle. So therefore, the total probability of finding the particle over the entire region must be equal to 1. So therefore, we expect when we when we integrate this modulus of psi square over the entire available region, that is from minus infinity to plus infinity, so then the total probability must be equal to 1. So therefore, if a wave function satisfies this particular condition, if you take modulus of the wave function, square of the modulus of the wave function, and if you integrate that value over the entire volume, entire region, so from minus infinity to plus infinity, and if that integration value comes out to be equal to 1, then we say that the function is normalized. The wave function is normalized. A wave function which satisfies this condition so is called a normalized wave function. In general, if we find out the wave function of a particular system, starting from Schrodinger's equation, time dependent on time independent form, whatever it is, the wave functions are usually not normalized. So therefore, by inserting a constant into that wave function, that constant is what we call it as normalization constant. So therefore, with the help of a normalization constant, it is always possible to make the given wave function to undergo normalization. So therefore, this is what the thing I have written here. Every acceptable wave function can be normalized by multiplying by an appropriate constant called as normalization constant. So this particular equation, modulus of psi square dV, integration over from minus infinity to plus infinity is equal to 1, is called a normalized wave function. In general, so the solution of the Schrodinger equation for a given physical system psi need not have to satisfy this particular condition. So therefore, it is not normalized usually. But the thing is, by inserting a constant called as normalization constant, it is always possible to make the wave function of the given system to be normalized. So this process is what we call it as normalization process. So normalization process is a process where, so we're going to insert a constant along with the arbitrary wave function for a given physical system such that normalization constant, after including the normalization constant, so that our given wave function is going to satisfy this particular equation minus infinity to plus infinity of modulus of psi square dv is equal to 1. And this procedure is what we call it as normalization procedure. And the constant is what we call it as normalization constant. I mean, this is what the theory. So let us try to illustrate this procedure of normalization by taking an example. I have taken here one particular example, and with the help of this example, so I'm going to show the process of normalization. This is my last slide of this particular session. So find normalization constant of a particle described by Gaussian wave packet function. Psi of x is equal to a exponential minus alpha square x square divided by 2 into exponential ikx, where alpha is some constant, k is propagation constant 2 pi by lambda that we have already known. So here in this particular example, a wave function is mentioned. The name of the wave function is actually Gaussian wave packet. So this wave function psi of x, whatever I have written here, actually represents Gaussian wave packet. So therefore, for the Gaussian wave packet, we can write the function as some constant times exponential minus alpha square by x square by 2 into exponential ikx, where alpha is a constant. A is what is nothing but a normalization constant, and we are interested to find out the value of A, such that if we are able to integrate this whole function over the entire possible region, so then it should actually give the value of 1. So therefore, the normalization condition is integration of minus infinity to plus infinity of modulus of psi square dx is equal to same as minus integration minus infinity to plus infinity of psi star into sin to dx is equal to 1. This is what, so the process of normalization. So where psi star is a complex conjugate of the wave function psi. So for this wave function psi, if we calculate psi star and if we multiply, this is a very easy step. I have not written here. So what I have to do is psi of x is nothing but a into exponential minus alpha square by x square by 2 into exponential ikx. And if I take the complex conjugate of the wave function psi star, then I will end up with almost same type of the equation a into exponential minus alpha square by x square by 2. But instead of exponential ikx, I'm going to get exponential minus ikx. So that if I multiply psi star into psi, exponential ikx and exponential minus ikx, they get cancelled. And ultimately, I will end up with this one, a square into exponential minus alpha square by x square, a very trivial multiplication that any student can do. So therefore, if I do this integration minus infinity to plus infinity of psi star psi into dx, so that is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity of a square into exponential minus alpha square x square into dx is equal to 1. Now I can take this a square outside and I can do this integration of minus infinity integration of exponential minus alpha square by x square of dx between the limits minus infinity to plus infinity. So that is a standard integral. So I'm not going to do all those standard integral here. I'm just going to mention the value of this integral. The value of this particular integral minus infinity to plus infinity. So in exponential minus alpha square x square dx is actually equal to root pi divided by a. So therefore, I can substitute the value here, and I'm going to get the equation a square into root pi divided by a is equal to 1, or the value of a normalization constant must be equal to root of alpha divided by pi to the power of 1 by 4. And therefore, I can conclude that the normalization constant is, so a into square root of alpha divided by pi to the power of 1 by 4 is nothing but the normalization constant for this particular case of Gaussian wave packet wave function. So it is mentioned here. So therefore, So I will try to illustrate the process of normalization for one particular function. And here for this Gaussian wave packet wave function, the normalization constant comes out to be something like this. And this procedure can be adopted for each and every wave function of a given physical system or for a given particle under given conditions, which is not normalized. So therefore, this is of an utmost importance in our physics. So usually the wave functions are not normalized. So wave functions which are solutions of the Schrodinger's equation, they are not normalized. And we can always follow this particular procedure of normalization. We can always insert this constant which makes the wave function so to be normalized. It is all based on the principle that the probability of finding the particle anywhere in the given available space is always equal to 1. And based on this particular principle, so we are able to write down the set of equation in this procedure, normalization constant, and so on. Anyhow, so let us go back to our objectives. I have already told. So our objective of this particular session was to set up time independent equation. We are able to write Schrodinger's time independent equation just by assuming that the wave function is independent of time. The wave function would be independent of time only when the potential energy function is not an explicit function of time. It is an explicit function of only the space coordinates x, y, z in 3 dimension, or it is a function of only x in the case of 1 dimension. So therefore, in such cases, it is always possible to reduce Schrodinger's time dependent equation into time independent equation, and that procedure we have tried and we try to understand. So then also try to explain the Max-Bon's interpretation of the wave function. Then also we try to understand the concept of normalization, the meaning of normalization, and how to proceed about normalization. So these are some of the things which we are able to understand in this particular section. Anyhow, I'm going to end the session right now. So we shall continue our discussion in the next session. Thank you all.